I'm back in effect, y'all. I'm coming from the store, y'all. And now I had to, go in on people about President Trump because you know what? I love my president. I think he's doing a wonderful job. And he's a no nonsense president. He done lived 80 years. He done seen enough of the world. He saw the world, and he's still trying to see the world. And he's trying to get things accomplished on here on Earth, like everybody else. I want to see heaven too, right here on Earth. Whatever I do, I want to see it prosper. I want to see the fruits of my labor come into season. So anyway, like I said, I wanted to talk about Christopher Columbus again and again and again because there's a mystery to history of him being an explorer, Christopher Columbus. And I keep telling everybody, do not erase him from our history books because I always enjoy reading about my Christopher Columbus because I think one of my sisters or somebody I went to Benjamin Franklin Elementary School, and one of my sisters went to Christopher Columbus. Okay, we named our schools even after our presidents and the famous people in America, like even going to Charles Richard Drew. That was a school named after, of course, Charles Richard Drew, Black History Month, and it was right there in the black ghetto in the Bronx. So, and Louis D. Brandeis. I did Louis D. Brandeis too. I got to read up about Louis D. Brandeis. But you're going to find American history is going to be able to share with everybody's history. So that's why I said, well, Christopher Columbus is a whole lot more to Christopher Columbus than him just sailing that ocean. Christopher Columbus was out on that ocean for a very long time, since 1400 something. And the man's mind, God's nature, God's man, the knowledge and the wisdom that God gives people to use their minds to show him, to show who he is. Okay? But anyway, I was just telling somebody about Christopher Columbus, and I said, look, Christopher Columbus was a Italian explorer. He wasn't just only in Western civilization. He traveled around the world. And when you say he wanted to see the world was round, and he came back, he traveled to China, and he went to India. So when you learn American history, while you come into this country, learn something about where your history might fit in this country. Don't just say immigrants built this country, okay? Because Christopher Columbus traveled around the world. Around the world. He didn't just stay in one continent. He went to Asia, okay? He went to Asia. He brought people back from Asia. He dropped some people off in the West Indies as he made his trip. And he went to Africa. I don't know if he went to Africa. He went to Asia. I know in my history books, I know he went to Asia. That's just as close as Africa to me. To me, because they seem to share similar cultures and similar religions and stuff. So they kind of like in the same kind of mindset, if you ask me. They third world over there. So Christopher Columbus went around the world. In 1492, he asked the king at the time, which was Ferdinand. He was a Spaniard king, and so was Queen Isabella. He went to Spain. He asked those people to invest in his expedition or whatever he was going to do. And they also agreed that he went to go bring some things for them from other places. Because in those days, when you traveled and you explored places, of course you had to go and talk to other people from other places to invest in giving you help, like people that will come and be with you on your ships. On those ships, you need people to supplies, food supply. You're gonna need food supply. You're gonna need water, because you can't drink the water while you're on the sea. So you're gonna definitely need a supply of water. I don't know about if they cared about washing their ass too much, but they probably cared about getting sick. And then on top of that, traveling the way they had to travel in those ships and going places in the world before we had things that Only God knows people probably got stuck in some ice glaze, but they probably knew the water. So they probably know which ways to go and which ways not to go because of the weather. See, they traveled in that kind of way in time, which way to go east. They had a compass on their boat, whatever was sending them east, west, whatever, how the wind was blowing. They had a way to figure it out. That's all I got to say, or else we wouldn't have been here in America. But I just said that he's a very important part to America before America became the United States of America. What he done to contribute to our history and what important, significant part of history he is. That's why I was like, no, y'all ain't taking away Christopher Columbus Day. You know what I'm saying? We will celebrate him on, his birthday is October the 12th, whatever. You could get the whole month to do more, to do more research on his life. The little that pieces you could pick up. Of course, some people added some parts to it, I'm pretty sure. Because 1492, how they kept data and how they kept things recorded, I got to do my history. They wrote it down with the pen, the ink pen or whatever, but people over in places like in Egypt and all those other places in the world, they call Massapath people, I forgot what they call, they use stone. They use clay, I'm sorry. They made, clay to write with clay. And they, Arabic, and just like how they did it in Egypt, how they built those pyramids to this day, they still trying to figure it out. How those pyramids were built in Egypt. Of course, the slaves built them. They got their ass whipped. They built them damn pyramids, and they did the what they call the the Hebrew slaves did that. They were the best back then. Those, and we don't know we don't know their ethnicity. We know they were Hebrews. That's what they called them back then. But I think they were the black ones. That's the way I feel. I feel they were of some kind of East African, whatever. They were dark. I believe they were the dark-skinned Jews. They were the dark-skinned ones. That's the way I look at it. But from what I get from the text, I don't know. What God shows me, and I have to see him in my own flesh and my own identity of my own people. So I believe they were, when they talked about how they were treated, I could only identify what our own people was treated like as slaves. So that's why I couldn't only identify them as being black. They were black. And sometimes some black people you got to whip the shit out of them to bring the best out of them. You know what I'm saying? Because they could be very stubborn like a fucking mule. Shit happening all in front of their face with this damn Democrat Party. And some of them still going hard, but I'm glad God pierced Van Jones' heart to get them to come over to the other side, because come to their senses, not to the other side, but to their senses, that this party been hijacked. And it was never about us. They just used us to be in the front line and to be the faces of the Democrat Party. But other than that, it was always about them damn immigrants. It was always about putting them immigrants in there. That's what they did. That's why Elon is acting a fool. That's why Mondani acting a fool. And that's why that other one, Rashida, and AOC and them, all acting the fools that they acting. Because that was the plan all along when they allowed all them 15 million illegals coming through our borders through Biden and Harris administration. And of course, it was in the making. Hey, even with your boy Obama. So that's it. Everybody see it for what it is. It was never about you, man. It was never about you, Hakeem Jeffries. It was never about all of you sitting over there being the flunkies for the Democrat Party. It was always about them putting the distractions on you, but it was always immigrants being in our government and in our politics. And then now they so desperate because they know they losing battle. They losing ground. Now if they open their eyes, they'll see that it was never about none of y'all getting a seat. It wasn't even about y'all keeping y'all seat. Because they finished using you because that's how evil they are. Because when you do wickedness with people, eventually the wickedness fall on you too. Okay? And that's exactly what they did. They did their wickedness. What they did is they wanted to keep the Democrat Party votes, to stay in power, and because they were losing the black vote, they had to replace the black votes. So that's why they had to come in with this illegal immigration smuggle, okay, to open up the borders and socialists because it was all about those immigrants voting for them. That's why they would leave. Who would leave borders open in their nation for their nation to be, you know, and flooded or in danger like that? It had to be a desperate person that wanted to stay in power, and they want to do everything they can to be greedy about power and put their whole nation at risk. That's what they would do. That's an evil mind. That's an evil person. That is very wicked. To want to leave borders open for criminals and killers and murderers and rapists to come into this borders just so you could gain a seat in an election? That got to be kidding me. The way these evil devils play. You know? Getting people kids killed, getting people kids messed up. I'm telling you. My God's eyes are everywhere. He knows. He knows. He pour wisdom in people and let people tell you what's going on with them folks. They have to know that.
Front door.
She could go. She could go as hard as she wanna go, but those people don't care about her. They just using her while they do their dirty work in the background with them immigrants. Okay, when they do their dirty work with Elon and with the other one they got going on over there. The other one. What's his name again? I gotta take these shades off. I'm in the house. Let me take these shades off, y'all. I'm sorry. Oops, sorry. Yeah, y'all, I am back in the. Oops. Take these suckers off. Yeah, I am back in effect, y'all. Hold on. Let me just go into my green screen, y'all. Anyway, like I said, what I was saying before, I was telling you about these people. They don't care nothing about Americans because all their investments is in immigrants. They compromise. They compromise this nation. You know, all they about is profit and greed. Like that's gonna do them any good when they get us all killed in America. In America, like these people, you can make a trade with these people, and these people gonna care about your ass. They probably already did. They probably somewhere being held hostage or somebody in their family. So they feel they have to do this in order for their family. But you know what? I'll be like, well, you do what you gotta do. My family over there, they ain't got no business over there. I'll be like, look, you do what you gotta do. Okay? You know? They ain't got no business over there. You live in America. You should stay in America. Keep yourself safe in America and don't do business with foreign people you don't know. And well, it ain't like you don't know. You do know. You do know those people are wicked. It ain't like this the first time you ever had an experience with them in America. You stay away from people that came and dropped a bomb on a couple of airplanes and blew up your damn World Trade Center. I ain't going nowhere near those people country. And I don't want them coming in mine. I don't go nowhere near those people country. After the World Trade Center, you serious? I don't need them as my friend. I really don't. Why would I want people that want to kill Americans to be my friend? Make that make sense. Make that make sense. Why you want people that sitting up here calling their death to your nation to be even anywhere in your country? Make that shit make goddamn sense. And as much as I hate to say I have to put a blanket on all of them, because I know there probably is some that do want to escape from Iran and that government over there and everything. Hey, Claire. You said I'm awake. You know what, Claire? You too much. I'm gonna say like this: ain't nobody putting me to rest but God. And when that time comes, I'm sure He gonna do it in a nice way. Let me go to sleep in heaven. Let me sleep peacefully in my sleep. I don't want no terror coming to my life um, to take my death out of here. That's why I'm speaking. I'm using my breath every day to denounce Satan. Denounce Satan every day. Ew, when you got Jesus, boy, you feel so good. You're not afraid of nothing that man can do to you. For real, for real. Because when you got Jesus, Jesus keep your heart so confident, so protected. So, you don't care. You don't care. As long as you come in with a clean heart and the truth, you don't care. You going down for unrighteousness. You don't care. You really don't care. If these people know they doing wrong, they know doggone well these people should be out of those seats. They know doggone well they showed you everything they need to show you. Um, this one Italian dude, he got up on one of those platforms on Fox 5. He said, Madani, and you know those Italians, you know what they damn temper, right? you know those Italians. And he one of those Italians, you could tell that got that family blood in him. Because those ones, they got that hot temper. Those are the ones, they don't play with you. They gonna find you. You come into America, we got all kind of criminals that's trained from wherever they hell they came from. Them damn Irish, they'll beat your ass with their hands to death. Yeah, that's what I said, that mafia blood. You gonna see everybody traits come out now for his ass. Those Americans that came here, the first, I call them the first foundational immigrant family. I call them the first foundational immigrant families because they are the first foundational immigrant family. They the first class families, as far as when it comes to the immigrants of this country of the United States of America. And I told you who Christopher Columbus was. He wasn't just only just bringing in people. He brought people from all different places of the what you call it over there, places that people have traveled. How do you think they got their ass over here? He the one who went and told everybody how to get over here. How do you think they got their damn shit for the pilgrims and all of that stuff? It was Christopher Columbus. He was bringing people all the way over from all the way from Western civilization, and then he went out there to discover things. Exactly. It only works when you share the same values, and that's what I said. Immigration is not supposed. American immigration. We on the what is it? We're in North America, right? Then you got Europe around us, right? And then we have Europe, and then we have Canada. I mean, the countries in North America. I'm sorry, the countries that are in North America is Canada and I believe Mexico. Those are the two places we in between as America. So a lot of times these people come from third world, whatever countries, they come through our Canada borders. They don't come through our Mexican. Mexico is more South American people and everything. They come through that border. But the other than the ones who come from like places like Africa, India, all of these other stuff, if they here coming here illegally through our borders, they will come through Canada. They come through Canada. People from India, people from Asia, people from it's mostly from Asia and Africa will come through Canada's borders. And people get to learn the globe, and they get to learn the world, and they get to learn the seven continents of the world, and there's only one, I mean, six we can live in, and one, no humans are living over there. You can only go out there to Antarctica to do research. You could go out there for research and everything, but it's not livable because it's a very cold, cold, cold place in the times there and everything. But they still probably doing a whole lot of shit over there. People probably living over there for all I know. But from what I understand, they don't do no human life over there because it's so cold. You can only really go there for research to be in Antarctica. But we have seven wonders of the world, seven continents. And out of those seven continents of the world, God placed everybody close enough to who their neighbors are and what cultures may have some similarity to your culture, your language, your religion, and everything. These people come over here, they forcing their way in. They not welcome because they don't have our culture. They don't have our custom. They don't share our religion when it comes to our religious practices. Okay, as far as like faith, is really in America is about really truly coming through the doors knowing something about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, at least showing your best and putting your best forward and being good to everybody. At least you have some understanding of who Christ is, right? When you coming into people's country, which we at least expect at some elementary level of common sense or just being saying hello. And if you got to feel that traumatized, then maybe you need to stay in your country. Because in America, there's going to be trauma. Because you're going to live in a world where you're going to live in a whole new country with a whole lot of different language, a different custom, a different culture, and everything. So if you feel you're not confident enough to come, then don't come. You know, ain't nobody forcing you to come. You came freely. But it's not free. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things you just got to do to work for it. Especially when you want to build relationships with people and you want people to like you and you want people to really understand you. There's some work you have to do in your character. When you're coming into somebody else's country, and there's just certain things you just don't open your mouth and say when you just a visitor or a guest. Because these people, you could say something, if they get offended, they have every right to kick you out of their house or kick you out of their home or whatever. My sister used to tell me that all the time. I could get the F out of the house. I was my sister. I don't like the way she doing this and doing that. But you know, I used to go toe to toe and I say, look, I'll leave, but you be the one suffering, not me. Because you need me more than I need you because I'm by myself. Boo. That's what I used to say. Well, anyway, because I was here to help you. Not really myself, but just help you. But in the meanwhile, I help myself as well. People want to threaten you and throw you out. But I mean, I'll tell them like this. Look, they know we don't need them, okay? The jobs you have, those are our jobs. Those jobs we sacrifice to give to you kind of people. But you don't appreciate nothing this government does for you. You go on the other side. You on the other side trying to kill us. You on the other side trying to overthrow our government. You on the other side trying to turn this world into the devil's world. You know what I'm saying? No, we ain't doing that. We were the good ones. We don't hear what we got to say about you because we know what we did for you. We know, and the world knows what we did for you. God knows what we did for you. Okay? You're going to learn how to say thank you. Even if we have to keep dragging you. America, Black America, when they start dragging people, they don't stop. They don't stop because we have a lot of pain. Because I think we suffered the most. If anybody suffered as an immigrant or a foreigner or whatever the hell is trying to call this country, was Black America. Because we was the original foundational black people here. And some of us came in bondage or whatever. And we've been mistreated like shit. Overlooked, underpaid, ostracized, denied this. And we fought for every fucking body. And they come in here and they shit on us. And we tired of being big people dumping ground. Because we've been through the most in this country. And we never flee. We just stay here and fight. We fight, fight, fight. You doggone right. Until our voice is going to be heard. If men don't hear our voice, God hear our voice. And he going to wreak wicked habit on those who seem to think they don't want to do what's right for us. God will continue to set that devil on them if they don't want to do what's right for us. Because if they would have just gave us our reparations and just let us open up our businesses and leave us the fuck alone and let us be in our own communities policing shit and doing shit the way we were doing it back then, y'all wouldn't have this problem because them damn people would have been going out of this fucking country. Because black people, one thing was that we did what we had to do for others because of the way we felt, the way we were being treated. But now, we don't feel that way no more. Okay? Because now we would have been able, we get our money and everything. These motherfuckers ain't coming nowhere near our business. The flop they funky ass in there. Hell no. Either they could come in there and buy something. But as far as like doing business with us, oh no, we ain't doing it like that. They could come buy something because they owe us that. Because y'all gave it to them. Y'all let them come and live in our country better than us. And we just is first class. We first class citizens. We right there with the doggone first immigrants. As far as the first immigrants, especially with the Irish, because they treated the Irish real fucked up when they came to here. They had to take all the dirty jobs with black people. The Irish did. They had to lower them along with black people. The only way they gave them a step up is they gave them the police department and the fire department when they came. And of course, they treated the Guinea, the people from Guinea, Genoa, Genoa, and people from Italy, like Sicily and everything, because they're a little bit more darker in skin color and olive color and everything. They more like close to Latino culture. They treated them like fucked up shit too. If you wasn't Anglo-Saxon white with that white British real white shit, you know, oh, you was treated like shit. Look at what they did to Abraham Lincoln, because he's from that, part of Western culture. They made him a penny. you know, they made him the penny, and try to call. Well, at least they stepped him up with a $5 bill. But I'm just saying, if you really look at how white Anglo-Saxon people, I'm talking about them real white, evil white folks that came from all real evil white countries. With the British. If you go back and do British English history, oh my God, you'll see why America broke away from the British, right? Because they were fighting for their freedom, and then they had the nerve to have slaves, and then they had to fight the free. Then they had the nerve to have slaves too, and then that's when we had to fight to get. When you look at American history, you would be surprised how they will prey on the weak. It's called the survival to the fittest. Charles Darwin. I need to do some more research on Charles Darwin. Anybody remember Charles Darwin? Crispus Attucks. He was the master of the sea, of the water. I mean, not Crispus Attucks, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Jacques Cousteau. Jacques Cousteau. That's why I tell people the French and everything that was here as immigrants, those who would contribute to American history. I remember learning about Charles Darwin. Of course, I learned about Jacques Cousteau, a French person who his thing was more into the discovery of the breathing apparatus and all of that other stuff. Where he discovered how you could go underwater. Discovery of underwater. That's where his work was at. People that have contributed to history, period, in American history, because American history we learned these things in our classrooms. We wasn't taught, like I was telling a young girl today, I said, y'all lost American history. They teaching our kids all of this damn activism. Our children shouldn't be learning activism. That got to come naturally. That got to come when they feel like they fed up and they want to go out there and use their voice. But that's not what they're supposed to be teaching them. If you want to teach them something civic, you could teach them about American history. You could teach about the jobs that people, when they first came to America, and the jobs that they learned. You can learn about the Industrial War. You learn all that stuff, and that will move you in to where God wants you to go when you learn American history. Because see, American history just don't only just deal with just learning about presidents. You can learn about other great people that build America. You can learn about Eli Whitney, who did the cotton gin. You could learn. It's so many things. When we talk about American history, we're going to talk about things that came to America and that we build on those things together that made it for the good for everyone. Okay? So you want to talk about American history, you want to talk about the industrial, revolutionary war, whatever, you go all the way up to now. Economic wars and stuff, like we in right now, Cold Wars, you're going to learn economics, the industrial revolution, the economics things when the Black Wall Street, when Wall Street, not Black Wall Street, but when the Wall Street drama happened back in the 1920s, and that took place back in the time when Hitler was doing what he was doing over there in Germany. So you learn a lot about history over what was taking place in Germany in World War. I believe that was World War Two or World War One. World War One. Then it was World War Two, and then we went into Korea War. When we went into Vietnam, and then we went into whatever. As we go along into American wars. But most American wars were not started by Americans. That's why we were able to build the strong military that we have. Most American wars were not started by Americans. We went in to help other people in their battles. Only war that was ours was the Revolution and the Civil and the Indian Wars and those kind of wars that happened here in America. But we're not talking about world wars. World wars were never started by the United States. Some of these wars that went on was started like Iraq and what other places we had war in Afghanistan, all these places. Let me tell you, that didn't start with America. America went over there to help. And then they had to call their troops out because too many of our men be dying. We're dying. America, we not only just in one area when we fighting. We not just only fighting. If we are in Iran, we helping over in Iran. And if we in Palestine or wherever them places in Ukraine, we over there. You know what I'm saying? We all over the world fighting people battles with their wars. We don't. It's not our wars. And all them people that keep telling us we killers and all that stuff. So we going in there to save the lives that's being held hostage and the people that's getting caught in the middle of all of this. So innocent people, protesters and everything that's being kidnapped and is dragged away. What you said, Vicky? The Irish were forced to work in slaughterhouses. They were paid indentured wages in sloppy wool homes colder than a tent. And who in the West is returning the favor? Absolutely thou. That's because they caught up in they living in terror right now. That's why they living in terror, because they not trying to take a step to help. They be like, oh, fuck this shit. This is where we getting in this shit with America. You know what I'm saying? But they not thinking like that. We the only Christian, we the only nation that really truly, we prove to the world that we the only nation that really holds up to Jesus. Everybody else speak him out of their mouth, but they better know him by in their heart. That's what he said. You know me in your mouth, but you don't know me in your heart. And if they knew Jesus in their heart, if they were Christians before, they should know him even more now in their heart. And they should be helping America out. They're going to start stepping up. You watch. They're going to start stepping up. They're going to take a risk. They're going to start stepping in. Because it just didn't touch their heart yet. It just didn't touch their heart. And it takes a little while. Look at Van Jones. He already came out and said, look, y'all doing it the wrong way. We ain't about that bullshit. And when I think about Van Jones, guess who I think about? The Apostle Paul. Remember, Apostle was playing on the other side. The Apostle Paul was playing like he gonna go after the Christians and kill all those Christians. And then all of a sudden, his heart he got blind on the road to Damascus. And he turned his heart around and he turned himself into a follower of Christ and became one of the best epistle or writers or whatever of the story of Jesus after his death, and all the people that came to follow his life after his death. That's who Paul the apostle was. He wasn't the original disciple, but they had to replace, of course, Judas. They had to replace Judas because remember, Judas didn't repent. He took his ass to hell. Judas was the traitor. He couldn't repent. At least Paul repented. You know what I'm saying? Paul repented. But there's consequences for everything with the choices we make, and it could be for a lifetime. But God will keep you on an assignment until he gets you where he wants you to go. Well, Paul and Paul finally came to the understanding of all the evil, wicked things he did. He died in a wicked way. He was beheaded. That's how he died. Everybody that God called, everybody gonna die some kind of way. But you just don't want to die wicked. I don't want to die with nobody putting a damn whatever to my head and executing me. I don't want to die like that. I don't want to die with no gunfire. It's the way you live your life. You live with violence, you die with violence. That's the way you live your life. That's the end of your story. Even those, like I said, if you except for people like Dr. King, and it's sad the way he died because he didn't die. He didn't come with violence. He came with love and peace. But that was just a lesson to show him, to show us anyway, because he's gone. That it's not good to take your political fights to the street in front of guns, in front of dogs, in front of people with police and evil people, because evil people they not playing. They don't hear your love. They don't hear your peace. All they know is they got in their heart is violence. So you got to be very careful the way you choose your battles and the way you take your friends and your people out on the street to deal with people that's already against you in a violent, evil way. Stay away from them, and you talk. And what he could have done is he could have sat down and talked to them like he's been doing, like sit down and like negotiate with them because he had the gift of gab and he knew how to talk. Dr. King knew how to get his point across. He didn't have to use all them people behind him. He could have came by himself because they liked King. They liked King. They respect King. He was the black America they was looking for. That's why he was celebrated at his death, because he was the black America that they wanted to look for. They don't want to look for the black American that was angry and mad like Malcolm was. They didn't want that kind of black America. They wanted black America like Dr. Martin Luther King, because he came with intelligence. He came with knowing the scriptures and knowing how to talk to their heart in the right way to get their attention. He wasn't a violent man, but he died with violence because he brought violent people and hypocrites and traitors around him, being attached to those organizations, being attached to all of that stuff. He should have just came just with his Jesus and himself, and that's it. Not with all those rest of them black people that make it bad for you and make you look like you was a criminal just like they were, or communists like who they probably was. And that was the lesson for us to learn that was left behind from his story. And as for Malcolm's story, Malcolm was a angry, hurt man. And that's not the black America, white America wanted to see. They wanted to see somebody that could forgive them, somebody that could make them look shine and make them look good. And how they work was done in such a beautiful way of raising up their slaves to look more like the master. Okay? That's what white America was looking for. They don't want the angry black man to represent who she is. Because some of them black people you died for ain't worth a drop of your blood. Okay? They not worth a drop of your blood. You go out there raising Cain for them and getting yourself hurt out there for them and everything else. Well, I ain't asked them to do it. They'll be ungrateful. I see how they talk about Cain and his death. Some of them sitting around saying the horriblest things on their platforms about King. And I was like saying, are y'all serious? How much deep search did y'all do? How much American history did y'all learn? And da 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 da. This is all what they learned in their household. I didn't learn to be hateful like that. I didn't learn to dishonor my ancestors and dishonor those who helped me along the way, those who gave me some type of crumb from the table. I can't jump on the bandwagon with that. I don't follow the world. I follow what I know from my childhood and what was taught to me, and especially the love of Christ being poured into my heart. I don't go around disrespecting. I don't even disrespect President Trump like that. I know he's my elder, and he's older than me, and he has a lot of history. And especially after this young boy that I was talking to at the bus stop one day out here, and he said, we was just having a little bright conversation, the weather, the next, it just turned into a house school, whatever. And I asked him what he wanted to do. He said he wanted to go into political science. And I said, wow, you want to go into political science? What made you want to be that? Go into political science. And he was a young white boy. And he said to me, he says, because I like President Trump. And I said, I got to tell Trump this. The next time, if I ever see him again, I'll say, President Trump, you got to come see this kid. You have a fan. He loves President Trump. He says, you know what he told me? He says, I love the president. He says, I said, why you like the president? Is it because your mom? He says, nah, in hell with my stepmom can't stand him. And, I really don't really talk too much about him at my household because of my stepmother. Because he said his mom passed away. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Of course I'm sorry. Young man lost his mom. He had to grow up with his father remarried, and he raising him with this woman that's a Trump TDS woman, okay, trying to kill his spirit and kill his dreams. But anyway, I said to him, I said, well, I'm glad to hear that. You got to be the first young person I ever bumped into that told me you admire our president. And that's so interesting. And he says, yeah, I like President Trump. He's funny. And then he says, I like the way, you know, everybody gets so hyped in the spirit. And and then on top of that, he says, there's certain things that took my interest is because I like his politics. I like his policy. And I said, what you know about his policy? He says, I don't know. I just like it. I said, God pierce your heart. I said, God is calling you. He's calling you. If you are happy with your president and you young, in times like today, God is calling this young man. I wish I could take a picture of him and want to send it to President Trump and say, you have an admirer in Delaware and he likes you. And you'd be surprised how many young people love that president because he gave them something different. He educates them to the public. He stands in front of the public and he talks about everything. And the kids love it. The young people, they like that. They see something different. And people say the bad things they say about him. And that's what draws their interest to him because the young people are looking at him in a different way. They seeing him as their leader. They seeing him as their pop. They seeing him as some older man that they didn't have in their life. Growing up. They didn't probably have grandfathers and positive role models or anything. And they see the president of the United States and he's setting such an example for the young people that's coming up that want to actually go into political science for their future. And I was like, that is so wonderful. Forget about these old people. They had their time. And it's sad that our children can't have theirs. They can't have their childhood. They can't have they fan. They can't be a fan of the president. That is so good to hear that he's a fan of the president. And he's only 17. He just got out of high school this year. He just graduated. He's going to college. He said he wanted to go into entrepreneur, but he think he want to change his major into political science. And I said, I definitely got to find him again. Sorry I didn't get his name, his number, no nothing. I just spoke to this young person at the bus stop. But when I do, if I ever bump into him again, I will definitely take a picture of him and let him say something for President Trump. These are the kids he need to look at. Fuck these old people. They set in their ways. These old motherfuckers want to be acting stupid. Try to save our young people. Those are the ones we need to pour into. Those are the ones who want to save the future for us. The hell with the and the Democrat Party, them old ass people. We got to get people in there that are going to represent for our young people. And our young people are so they admiring the president, and that brings my heart so much joy. So with that being said, everybody, your girl KC, I'm getting out of here. So you all have a blessed and wonderful Sunday. Peace out.